Good morning.
Morning, Doctor.
Good morning, Calvin. I like the screen. Destiny, how are you? Paulo.
Paulo's here, yes.
Yeah, let me admit everybody in here. Let's see here. I'm on mute.
Paulo, my friend.
Hello, Alex. How are you?
Hey, guys.
How are you?
Whoever's on the Galaxy 2, welcome. You know, I can't tell who that person is yet until they introduce themselves.
Hello.
Oh, hey, Destiny. All right, I see everybody was able to, most of the people were able to do the pre-assessment.
Yes.
For some of you guys, it was easy, you know. It's the, but don't worry, tonight I'm going to post a more difficult one. All right,
Okay.
let me unmute whoever's on the techno canon. Yeah, as I unmute you, you can just say hello so that we can see Mohammed there. Unmute. So the reason why Zoom started this waiting room, you've been following the news, there's been a lot of security issues. People hacking and taking over online sessions. But thankfully, those of us like Calvin in cybersecurity, they've issued patches and they fixed the problem. So let's use all right.
Good morning, sir.
Morning. Eddie Dong?
Yes, sir.
How are you?
Nice to meet you, sir.
Nice to meet
I'm
you.
fine.
All right. So we had to upgrade our Zoom to the one that allows for unlimited classroom time, but this class is set for just 1 hour of lecture, maybe another hour of labs, whoever wants to stay. But I'm going to try and cover almost 90 slides or less with touch points and leave a lot of room for questions. Let's wait for the rest of the people that are coming. I've unmuted the techno. Let's actually unmute everybody. If you're used to Zoom, if you're not used to Zoom, just let me know. If you're going to be stepping away, just either you can raise up an icon like a cup that you left, or better yet, just unmute. Just mute yourself so I don't have to hear like the one with the whoever is with that cute baby in the background. So mute yourself, right? So I won't have to mute you. All right. So we like to start on time. We got about a minute to admit. I see who have not admitted. If I unmute you, you can mute yourself. Hey, Tonton, how are you?
I'm doing great. Do you hear me now?
Yes. How's FCC?
I'm still function. Working remotely. Yes.
Okay. Hey, Ron. Oh, Paulo, I keep on muting you, right? You can
Hi, how are you?
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm here.
great.
Oh, Ron, how are you, Ron?
Hi, Paulo. How are you?
Very nice, thank you.
Hey, Alex.
Hey, guys. Figure let's maximize our time during the COVID-19, right? And do what you can do. So the reason why I decided to do this class was I got a lot of people calling me and asking, especially with CompTIA and AWS now making their exams available online. People are thinking there's so much work in the tech industry, which is true. And remote work is going to make it even much better. So like now we have about people from 5 different countries on this conference call or this training. It shows the possibility with technology, all right? So that's one reason why we decided to do it. And an average IT fundamentals class is like $1,500. When we do it as an academy partner, we're able to get like discount vouchers for the students. So instead of paying, I'm gonna share my iPad in a minute and show you the CompTIA website in a minute once it's time. All right, it's exactly 10 o'clock. So everybody welcome. As I said, it's being recorded. I hope you don't have any issues with that. And I'm gonna share my screen first to show you the CompTIA website so you know what curriculum that we're using. And in the slide, if you've been able to download the slides, you will see that it's a CompTIA IT Fundamentals curriculum. So for some of you, some sections will be maybe elementary or introductory, but for some of you, it will be maybe difficult. I don't think most people are going to have any issues with it. Some people got 10 out of 10 on the classes. And then some people got a little difficulty here. So I can't hear, headphone problem. Galaxy, whoever is that's on the Galaxy, if you cannot hear, just try to follow the screen. Or if you can see my hand, I'll try to, I'm using a virtual screen, but I'll try to explain. I know it's a little difficult when you're on the phone because obviously bandwidth issues and stuff. All right, so let's back to my sharing of my screen. So I want to show you my the CompTIA website first of all, and then I will now go on the slides. Let's remove this guy who's. Well, let me admit one more person. Miriam. Hello, Miriam. I've admitted you. Miriam, well, if you hear me, you can just make a signal or send me a private chat to say that you're on, right? Whoever that is, I'm hearing some water. So let's see here. Thank you. Unmute your water. Okay, great. All right. This is great to Miriam. All right, so let's, while I'm bringing up the screen, anybody want to tell me what the issues were with any of the test question? In the past, I've had people say, hey, one question is wrong, one question is right. Did everybody, another person here, let's admit, was it Ugo? Can you hear me, Ugo? Well, I've admitted you. So can everybody see on let's do some little housekeeping stuff. I did post that please be courteous of your fellow classmate. Boris, welcome. But on the bottom, you will see your icon to tell us what you're doing, at least me as the host, if you're leaving or if you're gonna be doing something, how to send me a note on the bottom portion of it, right? All right, we still have a few people. Favor, welcome. I've admitted you, Favor. So I was saying the reason why we had all these new security issues was because of improper screens by people. So we needed to, Zoom needed to try and fix security challenges because some people were refusing to get on Zoom conferences because of the security challenges, right? Can everybody see my tablet? Can you see it?
Yes.
All right, so
You can see the screen.
Yes. Yes,
All
I
right, so
can.
this is CompTIA.org. So if you go to this screen, CompTIA.org, and you see on here normally, this is all the testing. So when I go to certification,
I cannot see the tablet.
you cannot see the tablet.
I cannot see yet, no.
Oh,
Oh.
yes, I
Yeah,
think your screen is
No,
frozen.
the tablet is not.
Who cannot see my tablet? Well, who can see
none
my
of us. I
tablet?
think you're sharing your screen.
I cannot see it.
You cannot see it. Let me
I'm Paulo.
unpause
I
it.
cannot see it.
Okay, hold on. Let's see.
Me neither.
Let me remove the pause. I had paused it for some people when I. Let's bring it back up. Let me admit this other participant that just came on. All right, let's go back to this. All right, can you see it now? Can anybody see this screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great.
Yes,
Yes,
now
sir.
I can see. Yes.
All right, so when you go to CompTIA.org, if you see on the screen under certification, you now see IT Fundamentals Plus, right? So on this screen on here, it tells you what the exam contents are. So what I've done was take the exam objectives and put it in the syllabus. So we've been doing this for years now at the community college. So the exam itself is $123 if you want to go and take the exam. So for those of you in Europe, that's probably like about £100 or euro. For those in Nigeria, that should be like almost 40,000 naira to take the exam. Unfortunately, I am a proctor for CompTIA, but they've changed it so that we don't get site licenses for now because of the whole adjustment. But you can actually register for your exam in any part of the world you're in and take it with online proctoring. So you sign up at the pearsonview.com and they will give you a proctor to proctor the exam almost any time of the day. This is one of those certifications that does not expire. Whereas the A+ expires every 3 years, the Network Plus expires every 3 years. This one doesn't expire. Any question? All right, so that's the side on that one. I'm going to go back to my normal, I'm going to show you the presentation slide, right? All right, we got somebody new. Henry, anything you miss, you can ask later. So I've just admitted you, Henry. All right, so this is normally a 5-day course. What we try to do is do as much as we can in terms of covering the material. I can do this normally in, hold on, let's take, I'm going to bring back the screen sharing so to make sure the slide. All right, Simon, don't worry if any issue. If you want to send a chart, you know, you can just, you see where it says tool? You can just click down that menu and you can decide who you want to send it to, right? Myself, or now you're sending it to everybody, and Miriam is responding to everybody so everybody can see your question, right? Okay. Let's see. Yeah, I'm scrolling back to the questions here. This is my first time taking the course. That's okay. Please tell me to slow down. I will slow down. Any other question I need to answer on the chat? That's about it. So as Marian told you, don't be nervous. We will do everything possible to carry you along. All right. All right. So let's go back to what I'm. All right, so this is the screen. Everybody can see my slide. Can everybody see my slide?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So it
Yes,
says CompTIA IT fundamentals. So normally it's a 5-day course, and experience in the last 3 years of doing it at FCC has shown that I can teach this class in approximately 30 hours of in-class time. It can be done less. So what we're doing is I'm going to cover one module a day, and I'm going to give you a lot of questions to answer overnight, and then we'll do the next module. So this is a 5-day course, 1 hour to 2 hours in lecture time. But my experience at the university is usually when you're in class for an hour, you should try and spend 3 hours outside of class to do, right? Any question? All right, so that's just my information right there. This is the free IT training course. I already introduced myself. That's how to connect on LinkedIn or WhatsApp, a little short bio. So what is the CompTIA fundamental exam? It just tells you that basically the concept here is for you to gain some foundational knowledge in IT that you can use in deciding which area of IT you want to go further into. So some people would decide to go more into hardware, maybe network engineer or software. I know a few guys here are already advanced programmers or database administrators. So you could decide to do that, but we believe that yes, that is on a class. All right. So we believe that this gives you a little background information that you can further build on. So normally you should be able to set up a computer after you take this class. I will show you some video if you're a little confused. When I do this live, we actually open up a computer and we identify the different parts of the computer from the motherboard and the different aspects. So we're doing this virtually. When the time permits, I will even show you the inside of a laptop, because most people have not really worked with laptops. A lot of people may have seen the inside of a desktop. So I have a laptop. Hopefully I can just open it up and show you. I should also know the functions of the different types of a computer system, know maintenance of computers, some basic. So if you had to go and take that exam, which is called the FCOU 61 at CompTIA, it's about 75 questions in 60 minutes. If you look up U.S. Department of Labor statistics, you will see that you can actually get a job with IT fundamentals plus. Even if you want to be a manager or just a business analyst, you could get a job with this. It's just that we advise that you do this and then you proceed further with other IT courses. Research shows that even Google and Amazon, Facebook, a lot of the companies, let me admit, okay, you've been admitted, the next person. So a lot of companies actually are stressing certifications. I know there's always a debate about certification versus degree. I always say if the option presents itself, get the two, get a degree and get a certification to set yourself apart. But many companies, because certification actually tests your knowledge. So they say, okay, let me see your certification. Like the A+ is considered in some places equivalent to 6 months IT experience. In other places it's considered 18 months IT experience. So if you go and search for a job as a help desk technician, you will see that it's asking for A+ or so many years experience. All right. All right. So this is the areas of the exam. Let's admit the next person. You guys try and today being the first day, I'm still admitting people into the class when you come on. But usually by 10:05, I'm going to lock the class so that we don't have interruption, because we have a lot of stuff to cover. So if you're just getting in, just know tomorrow at 10:05, you can't get into the class. I lock the classroom, right? So this is the introduction that everybody has done or should have done on Canvas. It just kind of helps me to know what I should explain. Some people got 10 out of 10 in the pre-assessment. Some people got 6 points, which means I need to explain certain things. But those who have a little more experience, you should be patient with those who don't have any experience. Like in any of my classes, I usually have a variety of students. So we want to talk about computing devices. If you try to save your questions, unless it's really critical, to the end of the hour, so that those who need to leave can leave, And also because I know in some parts of the world, they don't have unlimited data like we have in the US. So people are watching their budget to know how long they can be online. So if you try to save your question to the end, then I could take it one at a time. Unless it's really critical, then I can stop and explain, right? All right, so here in this section about computing devices, we're just going to look at the basics of computing process, and then what are the functions of the different devices from PC, servers, mobile devices. I've given you this slide. I'm just going to talk or teach from some of them, and then you can review them later. If you have questions, send them to me. But I don't read slides except to remember what is on there. I just use them as a guide for my students. So these slides, if you look on them, we give credit to who came up with the pictures or the slides. It looks like dead by PowerPoint. If you see a PowerPoint slide that I create myself, I don't have all these much items in here, but because they want us to be able to use it to teach, that's why it's got a lot of materials on the slides. All right, so IT or ICT, for those of you who are outside of the US, is basically about how do we process or store or transfer information, right? So there are different ways. The information age has really changed how we do things. As you see, even with COVID-19, some of us are still working and trying to make a living. Help desk, everything is still working. So the information age has really changed how things work around the world. And we also believe that it's also going to change and enable people from developing countries to compete, whether it be the development of 5G or IoT. It's going to kind of level up the playing field. You can actually be anywhere in the world and be doing the work. So what does that mean? You're going to choose where to live in the world based on your budget and based obviously on personal family issues. So the critical thing you need to understand about computers, we always say technically computers are divided into two portions or two parts, hardware and software. So I always say hardware is what you can really touch. Software is what you can really touch as is inside of a computer. That's usually the most non-technical way for me to explain it to you. So anything, I'm going to admit somebody else again, so you guys bear with us. Those latecomers, we are allowing them to come in. And then software, which is really operating system or applications. I always say, except for when you see hardware, anytime you see the word W-A-R-E at the end of something, it means it's an application or a program that somebody wrote. Software, spyware, hardware. So later on, we'll talk about some of this when we get to the security sections, right? So a computer, you have your hardware, your software, and then you have your interface, which is what enables the users to get in to use the hardware or to use the software. Then we now want to look at what are the basics of computing and processing, because you're sitting there on your tablet, on your phone now, you join this class. But the computer is doing some basic things that we take for granted, right? So usually you select a command right there, you type, okay, open up a Zoom as an example, right? But you need the CPU, which I call the brain of the computer, that retrieves what you just said you want to do, or the file, right? And puts it in what we call memory and does certain things with it, right? Which is processing. And then, you now get the results back. And of course, you need to know that I'm speaking, obviously I'm using the English language, but computers doesn't understand the English language. Computers only understand binary, zeros and one. So it tells you that the CPU and the RAM, they use the equivalent of zeros and one, just like a transistor, one being on, zero being off. Again, if these are really technical, if you're getting lost, just ask me on the chat room or questions later. I know some people here in the class have no IT experience, and some people have extreme expertise in IT, and they're using this as a refresher. Because I also do this course myself to refresh my memory. I go through the whole book and I read it just to remember some basic stuff, because after a while, like I'm basically more in cybersecurity and forensics, you forget some basic things or how to explain some basic things to people, right? So there are really, I always say there are technically 4 things we used to say has to do with any kind of computer process, but they've added a 5th one about network. So usually a computer must receive an input, it processes it, and then it outputs it. You can output it on the screen, but if you just want to output it on the screen, you can put it in storage. So you see input, processing, output, storage, and of course the network, which allows us to communicate. So for personal computers, just gives you a history of personal computers. I started in IT in 1985, yeah. I always say that means I'm dating myself. But I remember computers used to be way different back then when I was in Florida State University doing a degree in computer science, you know, very different, very heavy,
Yeah.
you know, and even the laptops that came out, the first laptop I got when I was working for Pricewaterhouse was like a clunker. You can use it to kill somebody, right? Equipment, but this just tells you how computers have progressed. IBM used to dominate back then, and things have really changed. So that's just a brief history that you can sit down and read on computers. So desktop, when people talk about workstations nowadays, they tend to mean a desktop. So people sometimes will interchange the terminology, but every computer you have a case. If you decide to do the A+ class, you hear about form factors, which usually determines the size of the computer as relates to the motherboard. But really, a desktop workstations are used interchangeably. Nowadays, a lot of people have the all-in-one PCs, which has everything on a screen, really. It's just a smaller form factor. But the advantage to desktops or workstations, they're usually easy to upgrade or to modify. And it talks about the issues about ergonomics. Let me talk about this ergonomics here before I forget. Ergonomics, a lot of people that use IT, I just highlighted that section, you might find that you suffer from back problem because you don't have the screen at the right length. So usually it's meant to be close to your eye level. You shouldn't have to look down or look up, and you shouldn't have to hunch your back. So if you have to take a job to set up a computer, remember that you must set it up at the level of your client's vision, and you should be able to sit down with your foot flatly on the ground. So that's just ergonomics, because that's actually asked in a lot of IT fundamentals exam. You would think about why are you asking me about ergonomics? Because a lot of IT people suffer from carpal tunnel syndrome, which is issues with their hands from typing a lot, right? So besides regular computers, laptops, you have servers. So servers just really, as you see on here, it just provides resources that somebody else can consume. So the kind of computers that work as servers, they could be the same desktop, but it just means that people can go in and use information from them. They could be, when you see the word rack mounted form factors, that's just talking about how you set up servers, but don't get confused. But the word redundancy and fault tolerance, it just means I have an extra. So redundancy just means, like if I have two computers now, I have an extra one. So if one fails, I can use another. A lot in IT. You guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, because I got a message on my screen
Yes.
that my.
Yes.
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah.
So this is a terminology to know. Fault tolerance and redundancy, they go together. It just means I can have an extra. If one fails, I can use another one, right? And then, of course, you see your laptops in here. You need to, one basic thing you need to understand on the laptop, I'm going to post an exercise on understanding motherboards, but one of the things you need to know, I'm going to look for a question on laptops. Understand how laptops are laid down. People take it for granted. The wireless antenna is attached to the screen. Most people don't know that it's a cable running across the screen, and most of the time you have to remove the keypad to get into a lot of laptops, like their motherboards, right? But on some laptops, you got to flip it over and unscrew the back and remove the hard drive. This is actually a lot of IT contracts now would be to migrate people from desktop computers to laptop computers and use stuff like what are called KVM switch, which is keyboard video mouse switch, and use docking station. So when you come home, you just slide in your laptop and you can use a regular monitor, regular keyboard. So it looks like you had a desktop all the time, right? Of course, this is just telling you about vendors. Everybody knows that Apple is one of the vendors for laptops, but the main share is shared by Windows laptops. You have Chromebooks. This is a good place for me to describe what we call thin client as opposed to thick client. So I consider Chromebook to be a thin client. Microsoft Surface, those are considered thin client. Why? Because they don't have like a lot of processing capacity or storage. I just need them to get onto the internet. So if I'm using like cloud storage, cloud services, I need a thin client like Chromebook, and of course they have their own operating system. Another terminology you need to be aware of is OEM. We call them original equipment manufacturer. So if you hear the word OEM, just know what that means, right? That's just telling you that who's the, and this is significant because if you're trying to obtain information like a driver, new software, we always recommend that you go to the OEM website. Don't try to go to third-party websites because you might get viruses. All right, and then here just telling you smartphone. A terminology you see on here is this word, phablet, which is a combination of tablet and phones. So usually if you're going to consult for somebody and they ask you, okay, a company wants you to help them set up equipment for their clients or their employees, you're going to be thinking, what kind of equipment is going to allow them to do their job? So a lot of exam questions will say, you represent a company that has salespersons. They want to send their salesperson out to a job. They want to be able to use their phone and be able to take notes. They want to be able to use GPS, but they're looking for one device to do that. They don't want to be like some of us. You got a laptop, you got a tablet, you got a phone. So usually a phablet solves that problem because it can do all that functionality, but of course you must have a cellular capability, right? So just keep that in mind, phablets. And then you see the vendor's information. Again, IoT, what I want to point out for you here is this, what I call IoT standards. You hear the word Zigbee, Z-Wave, those are the two main ones. You got Bluetooth LE, but just know that IoT is changing how things are done. They include thermostat, your security cameras, or IP cameras. That is an area of IT you could choose to specialize in. And of course, cars and drones. You've been hearing all those rumors and stupid information on the internet that COVID-19 is what's called, that 5G is causing COVID-19. That's a pure lie, right? 5G is going to be a disruptive technology that's going to help the world and even places like Africa to compete. Of course, medical devices. All right, gaming consoles are also another thing that you should be aware of how they work. All right, so now on this section, I know I ran through it, but I'm going to have 6 review questions for you that I've already posted on Canvas. And when at the end, I'll answer a few of them, and then tomorrow we'll answer most of them. Any questions so far? Good. That means I did a perfect explanation, right? So
Yeah.
Using a workstation, right? So this is our unit 2 of our module 1. So I already talked about making sure that the workstation is, the screen is at your eye level. But usually anybody that comes into IT, even if you're just if you're a programmer, cybersecurity analyst, I just believe you need to know how to set up a computer. That's a basic thing. You should be able to buy a computer, set it up. So those of us that live in a cold climate, first thing is whenever you buy a computer, when you open it up, you set it up and you take an inventory of what the contents are that you receive. But you must let it acclimatize, meaning get to the temperature of your room temperature before you start setting them up, right? So first thing is, so this is it. You should always check your contents, read the instructions. This thing here about trip hazard, people got to understand that cable management, it sounds elementary, it's a big area of IT. It sounds, oh, I want to be a programmer, but when you set up a computer, you must make sure that the cords, the cable, are all packed neatly. Use a cable tie to tie it up, like this guy on the computer, preferably running through that section right there, the middle of the thing here, right? That this guy's got on here. So that's very, very important. And of course, you connect the peripherals before you power on. In the A+ exam, what throws people off is you have to set up a computer, and if you use like test out to practice, when you do it wrong, it will buzz and tell you. But in the exam, it's not going to tell you that you're connecting the wrong way. But you should be able to see a female end or a male end and know where it goes and know how to connect the USB cords. And if you're looking at inside of the computer, know how to connect the memory chips and stuff, right? So you must know how to set up a computer. All right, so ergonomic concept, I already mentioned about the proper keyboard and the mouse placement, your sitting position. You know, so it says on here, some of us use dual monitors in the workplace. The same concept. Don't have dual monitors be of different size. Recommended best practice, the dual monitors must be of the same size. All right, so this one is just about signing in and navigating. If you have any issue with this, you can call me, but navigating an OS, the word OS obviously we just use for operating systems. All right, so you can either sign in locally on your computer, or you can sign on using your Windows, Microsoft Windows account. The advantage to Microsoft Windows account is your profiles and things move with you, and your files move with you from one computer to the other computer. Of course, the other security challenge is if somebody hacks into it, they can have access to your file anywhere you go, right? So a lot of people use Microsoft account, make their life a lot easier. What you should be able to know is the difference between, if I'm looking at a computer, you should be able to know what a desktop shortcut looks like and what your normal applications look like on the screen. And a basic question on some exams, which is also what you should know as an IT person, is on the bottom of your computer screen to the far right-hand corner is called the notification area. It has your date, time, and apps that don't really need Windows to run. It has your network icon there. It has it's right there next to your volume and next to your battery life if you're using a laptop. That's called your notification area. But everything on the bottom there is called your taskbar. So we're going to talk later on about Windows 10, but in case I forget, I hope nobody's using Windows 7 or earlier version. As of January this year, Microsoft no longer supports it, and you're just exposing yourself to a lot of issues with security challenges, right? So for Windows 10, the start menu is same thing as the Windows icon there. It's replaced it for those who are using Windows 8 or whatever. That's what we have on there, right? So Windows 10 interface, if you want, it tells you on here, that's your start menu on the screen in here, right? And TAS apps instant search, which is Cortana. You can speak to it, or you can just type on the hourglass, on the search glass, and it finds what you need. A lot of us have become lazy because in those days, Windows 7, you have to know how to find something, how to use a shortcut to get somewhere. I know I need to go to control panel, then go to internet setup. Now I just type in internet setup in the search bar, and it gives me what I need to set up my internet. So Windows 10, the search feature of Cortana has made our life a lot easier. But you as an IT person should be able to know how to navigate Windows 7, Windows 8, even Windows Vista or XP, because yes, you might go to a country where somebody's still using those features, or some establishments. All right, so to pin an app, that's one of the labs we can do, but just pin an app, you can pin it to your taskbar. It's very simple. You just right-click the app, and you will see the icon come up to the right. To pin it to the start menu or pin it to the taskbar on the bottom. And then, of course, using a mouse, this is just differentiating between how you use a mouse on a laptop and a regular mouse. Just know the functionality of the keys are similar. A lot of us like to use an external mouse. I use a cordless mouse to make my life easier, but you should be able to know that the functionality of a mouse is similar on a touchpad. So if I'm having a problem, the client calls me and say, hey, I'm on my mouse, on my iPad, and it keeps going all over the place. What you need to do is what's called calibration. You need to calibrate that mouse or that touchpad. You know, some of them have the right built-in software, but you can also buy third-party software. But that's just an issue about calibration if the mouse is jumping all over the screen. All right, and of course you got your keyboard. You memorize your function keys. What I need to talk about the keyboard, just know that on most modern keyboards, on the top, especially now with Windows 10, is your function keys. Even your print screen, everything, some will make it easier for you by making it blue. You see the word FN on the lower left-hand corner, and then on the top, you see the equivalent function key. That's what throws people a lot off. And if you go to troubleshoot for clients, a very simple problem that I see with clients is they have the nums lock key on, or they don't have it on, and they're trying to type in a password. and your client will call you, or if you're working at a desk, help desk, they'll be like, oh, I can't get into my computer. I keep typing my password and it's wrong. Simple. Either the nums lock keypad, or it's not working properly on the right-hand side, or the caps lock is on. It sounds elementary, but in troubleshooting, when we get to the 5th module, you got to go with the simplest thing first. Somebody left the caps lock on, or nums lock is not working properly. That's the significance of the keyboard. Now, gestures, know this thing. They somehow test gestures on exams, basically about pinching and stretching, whether it be on iPad or touchscreen. Oh, this is a good part to go back to something. Where at an earlier slide, we talked about input, processing, output, storage, and network as the 5 things that a computer normally does, right? So you will be asked a lot of times about what's an input device and what's an output device. Touch screen are the trick question, because a touch screen works as both an input and an output device. So I can touch the screen. So just know that if you ever have to take a certification exam and you see a touch screen on there as a question, it works as both an input and an output device. All right, so this is, when I look at my computer screen or my desktop, I should be able to recognize my icons. In those days, we had manila folders. That's what a folder means. A folder, for those of you who are into Linux or stuff, is something as directories. And of course, you got your shortcut. The shortcut always has an arrow, like a arrow pointing back. And of course, your applications. And if you looking at your devices, if you're on a Windows 10, it's called this PC. Earlier version was called a computer. You will see these symbols. You're supposed to be able to recognize these symbols by sight: printer, CD, DVD, and a hard disk drive. Right? And then, so this is what for Windows 10. That's how it looks on a Windows 10. And you're able to know that normally your computer defaults to your document folder, which is part of your C drive. In case I forget, when we get to the, who's this late person coming in? Okay, Val, I've admitted you. So when you open your PC and you go to your C drive, later on, we're going to talk about a 32-bit and a 64-bit system. Just understand that on the C drive, when I get to the programs, I will see programs, and I'll see programs x86. If I see those two, that tells me I'm in a Windows 64-bit operating system. Otherwise, I will not have that program folders 86. Again, for some of you, if it's too much, I will explain later on, right? All right, but I'm also trying to cover the slides for those who are also a little more advanced. All right, so 7 questions that review this area. I've posted it on Canvas also. Any questions so far? All right, good. So I want to talk about operating systems. We got 25 minutes. We're able to finish 3 more units. So usually in class, we stop and we do labs. I put the labs at the end because the labs tend to take more time. That's why I usually would teach. If I taught it in the 5 days, it's 8 hours per day. Each module takes 8 hours, and we'll take a break, 15-minute break after an hour and a half, and then we'll take an hour lunch, and then we'll come back and we'll finish up. And it's been a formula that's worked for us at the community college for years now. And people tend to, if you pay attention and you do all the exercises, and if you do all the questions that I give you, you will pass this exam. And it's something that you can put on your resume, CompTIA, IT Fundamentals Plus. All right, using an operating system, which is OS. So here, the concept here is for me to just let you know that there are different operating systems. Just understand what they mean. That we have workstation operating systems, servers, mobile and embedded systems, and of course, for virtualization, right? And when you finish this section, you're supposed to know about the different operating systems, or at least have an understanding of them. If you want to go specialize, you can go and specialize. Let me admit this other 2 people here in the waiting room. I guess just bear with us. Desiree?
Yes, sir.
All right. I've admitted you. Try and be on time. Val, try and be on time tomorrow.
No, I'm here. I'm here since 10.
Okay. Well,
So I just changed the computer.
Okay. All right, guys. So the strict teacher in me, as I said, and also to respect everybody else. Tomorrow at 10:05, I lock the classroom, right? So that I'm speaking, my train of thought or discussion is not interrupted. So everybody that is online, please log on time tomorrow, right? All right, so let's go on. So we are now on functions of an operating system, because before operating systems came out the way they are today, those of us that were in IT before that, we knew how difficult our life was when MS-DOS, which was disk operating system, came up. It was great, but it was still a big handicap, but it enabled us to do a lot of stuff that we couldn't do before. So today, you should be happy. You should thank Bill Gates and thank the Apple guys for what they've done, because it's made your life a lot easier. Because now, operating system is basically the interface for the user and the computer. Either for the shell, or what we call the GUI, so the graphical user interface, or the CLI. Before the advent of operating systems, we all did our work using command line interface, CLI. So I have to type run, the name of the file, the name of the output input file, and the name of the output file. It was a nightmare. So now operating systems have made it a lot easier for us, right? So you've got utilities and applications. Utilities is just applications that come with the computer to do certain system functions. That's all a utility means, right? So here, 32-bit versus 64-bit operating system. I already told you that when you go to your PC and the C drive, you will see program files. Maybe in a review, if I have time, I will show you on my screen. I will know that I'm on a 64-bit operating system. The distinction is a 64-bit operating system enables you to be able to have more than 4 gigabits of RAM on your computer. So if you have a 32-bit operating system and you go and install 16 gig RAM, you're only going to be able to use 4 gig. That's just a big difference. And of course, some applications only run with 64-bit, and you should know that 64-bit systems are downward compatible, meaning they can run 32-bit applications, but a 32-bit system cannot run a 64-bit system. Now, although a 64-bit system can run a 32-bit application, sometimes they have crashes or they have some problems with it, right? But just know that compatibility and amount of RAM space you can use. So a workstation operating system, that's an example there, Windows, you see right there, of course, Apple, Mac, Linux, Chrome. You can have home client. Mobile is Apple, iOS, and Android. And the mobile ones are always tied to the hardware. And one thing to know there is that Android has the largest share of the market. So if somebody's telling you that, oh, I want to use Apple because it's more secure. It's not that it's more secure. It's just that people don't attack Apple as much because they have a smaller share of the market. But now you know people also attack Apple. And of course, you have server operating systems. So as I said before, a server is just another, call it a computer that shares resources for other devices. So you have commercial terminology. You know, commercial just means I got to pay for it. I need a license, right? And an open source, big open source is Linux, or if you see Android in there. Open source means I don't have to pay for it, but some open source, I still need to try to pay for advanced features. All right, embedded is a big issue now, especially with ICS and SCADAs. It just means it's in the hardware, it's embedded in it. It's a static environment. This is a real-time operating system. So usually, I can change, uninstall, and remove the other type of OS, but embedded system, I don't really do that. Like on routers or some systems, if I want to use it, if you hear like firmware, if I want to change the firmware, you hear the terminology flashing the firmware, right? Like BIOS, which just means I'm going to get to a later, a basic input and output system. If I want to upgrade my BIOS, I flash it. But it's not a normal thing that I do as opposed to a regular operating system. So that's firmware right there, right? Basic input and output system. The newer one is called UEFI. If you hear somebody say BIOS and they're talking about a modern system, they're being confused. The proper terminology is UEFI. So this is the newest one. All right. So, all right. Virtualization is a great thing that those of us in cybersecurity we use for sandboxing, testing system. Those are at least four people or 3 people on the call were with us on a contract recently. We use virtualization a lot in that recent contract. The issue about virtualization, just to know what's called a hypervisor, the different type 1 and type 2. So with the bare metal, it's by type 2. I have the hypervisor, which is just a software that runs on the host, like on my Windows computer. And on top of that, I will not install a virtual machine. So the major ones are Oracle VBox and of course VMware. The advantage of Oracle is just that it has more functionality without paying. But if you can pay for VMware and enterprise version, it has a lot of awesome features. Of course, Microsoft Windows, I told you, has most of the shares of the market. Windows 10, when it was released, that's just there, right? Older versions of Windows. What you need to know here, as I said, Windows 7 is no longer being supported. It was the most popular version of Windows before Windows 10 came out. The only main issue about Windows 8 was it came up with Windows 8.1 and it went back to 8 and it didn't really catch on very much. XP Vista, don't use those, please. Unless you're trying to practice on a virtualized environment, there's no reason to be using XP or Vista. All right, and I've already explained 64-bit and 32-bit system. Apple is very proprietary. I've never been able to see, I've not seen any way you can virtualize a Mac OS. Now, but on a Mac system, I can use what's called a boot camp to run Windows app, make it run Windows on there. So Windows tends to be more functional because of what I can do with Windows. But you know, if you're in entertainment or other things, it's biased in favor of Apple, right? I had to admit somebody else now. All right, so for here, so that's just that on Apple iOS. You need to know how to work on Apple devices because people are also beginning to use Apple, and it's an area you can specialize, like a niche market on how to work with Apple devices. All right, so Unix, believe it or not, Linux and Unix, Linux is popular with system administrator, and you hear the word distros here. That just means the versions, right? So that's right. I'm highlighting just means multiple distribution or call it versions, but the proper terminology is distro from Kali Linux, Debian, Fedora. That's beyond the scope of this class. But if you want to be a system administrator or even some programmers, you need to learn Linux systems. I talk about Android and the vendors, and then File Explorer, which I just showed you in the previous slide. Now, Windows setting, this is how you can personalize your own setting for what you want to do. Control panel was popular with 10 and 7 and 8 before, but now a lot of the things I need to do with control panel, I just type it in the search bar, and it takes me where I want to go. So most people do not know how control panel works, but it's good to know if you're going to be in IT, how to get to different areas in those utilities from the control panel. You can do it like this or list view. You got an ease of access. If you have a vision problem or your client has a vision problem, this magnifier is an awesome thing to use, right, for your clients. And of course, you can actually narrate for those who are hearing impaired too. You can actually do a narration for them. If you ever have a client with a disability, those are things that you should be aware of, right? So here, I'm not going to go to two of these. I want to just cover just know that the advanced management utilities that you can use on Windows is sort of another course, but the slide is still here. Just know if I right click on my mouse, it gives me these functions. But if I left click, it takes me to the applications. If I right click, I get all this menu. You see PowerShell, PowerShell admin. In the older versions, you will see how to get into your command prompt. The command prompt advanced, command prompt regular. Just know that it's better to use command prompt administrator so that you can run commands that require the term is elevated privileges. All right, so this is just about web browser, just to know about if you buy a new Windows 10 now, they want you to use Edge. Some of us are so attached to Chrome. Safari is for Apple. You still have Mozilla Firefox. If you want to know a real joke, once upon a time, the best web browser was called, someone can tell me, Netscape. Nobody hears about Netscape anymore because they didn't really catch up. So if you see anybody using Netscape, it's just like the #1 email address was AOL. You hear that message, you got mail. All those things are, faded. All right, so a terminology, URL, Uniform Resource Locator. The more advanced term would be to know what is called a fully qualified domain name, but just know for now that URL, Resource Locator, is your web address. It tells the browser how to locate a page or resources. So usually you have HTTP. My IT guys, we know that's port number 80, or HTTPS, which is port number 443. But really today, you should be trying to go to site with HTTPS, and we'll explain that in another module. So using your browser control back forward, and when I get to security, I'll tell you how to make sure that you eliminate your history or browse incognito. 8 review questions are posted on Canvas that we'll go over hopefully tomorrow, but I will answer a few of them during our next hour. All right, so now we're managing operating systems. So you remember that GUI and CLI are usually the 2 popular interfaces that I use to get into my computer to do certain things. The GUI is what we're seeing now, so our graphical user interface. So here you should to explain the importance of the distinction between the 2 of them. So here we have a big management interface on Windows. Please, unless you know what you're doing, never get into your reg edit, which is your registry editor, right? So command prompt and PowerShell is a new functionality. PowerShell that enables you to write scripting languages like you're going to be on Linux. But on here, I just want to tell you that unless you know what you're doing, please don't get in here. All right, just like you work with H keys. Right. Task Manager, you can get to Task Manager by right-clicking on the taskbar, or of course you hit Control-Alt-Delete and it brings it up. The other way is, of course, you can also right-click on the Windows icon and it brings up the Task Manager. Task Manager is a great feature for you to kill applications. It says to end the process, or to see the health of your system, what programs are running on startup menu, what programs are consuming more of my CPU, and to generally see your hard drive usage, and also to see if you've got any kind of funny applications that are running on your system. If you see an app that you don't recognize, then you need to kill it. You can do it through your GUI as you see on the screen here, or you can enter by typing the Task Manager command on your CLI. The difference is when you type the Task Manager command on CLI, you need to know what the PID, which is the process ID, and then you can now type task kill PID / the number, right? But the GUI makes your life a lot easier. Same thing, service management is another GUI to you to manage your apps. This is just for information purposes beyond the scope of this class. Again, task scheduler, same functionality to manage your OS. Memory and disk management. So here, I just want to explain, it's elementary for some of you, but some people don't understand that when we use the word memory, it's really someone, like the other day I was troubleshooting for somebody and I asked them, can you just tell me what's the size of a memory? And she was telling me I've got 500 gigabits. But I now understood that she thought I meant hard disk storage, which is the fixed storage. So in IT, when we say the word memory, we're talking usually about the random access memory, which is called volatile memory. When you turn off your computer, everything on there is wiped off. So it's ephemeral, it's another big terminology. But to save your things, you put it in mass storage. It could be hard disk or solid disk. In the A+ class, we'll talk to you about the advantage of the hard disk and solid disk. But for now, just know that hard disk have moving heads, they have platters, so they call them magnetic disk. And of course, SSD is preferably, but usually more expensive. So that's all you need to really know on this slide. And then memory management, it tells you how you can manage the memory. Again, part of this, as I said, you use your task manager to see what's going on in your system, or you can go through your memory management. Virtual, this is also beyond the scope of this class, but just to let you know that you have virtual memory available on your computer or page file. It used to be supplementing your RAM. So disk management in your A+ class, we go through this thing and to show you how you can have dynamic active disk or how you can change it to extend it. You need to know about disk management, especially when you're doing with stuff about RAID 015. But just know that there's something called disk management. I can right click on my system. I could just type disk and it would tell me how to get in there, right? So if I just type on the search bar, it will take me to this screen. CLI, that's how it looks. Command line interface, and of course the newer one, PowerShell. The difference is the screen is blue, but you have more functionality. So it tells you on here that for the CLI, it's similar to what is called born again shell or bash in Linux. You can do some scripting on there. Just look at the bottom. So when you right click on your Windows icon on your taskbar, it will give you today Windows PowerShell. All right, this is just access control about how you can, this is more on your local device. If you're on a network or the enterprise, you'll probably be dealing with Active Directory, but it just tells you this is your access accounts and how you can do protection on them, right? So this screen is very, very important that you should know. You should be seeing this screen in here. What this is telling you here, the UAC, the term UAC, this is user account control. Every computer should have at least 2 accounts, your administrator account and your regular account. Don't work on your administrator account. When you finish everything you're setting, switch and log in as a regular user. But regular users should not be able to install applications on your system, but a lot of people still use the administrator account to work, which is not a good idea, right? So on this thing here, you see it's asking you, do you want to elevate your privilege? You know, so we call it like to give you mark. So in other words, you want to do something that only an administrator can do. So if you're logged in as an administrator and I hack into your system, you can imagine the amount of damage I can do to your system. That is why you want to on your computer as a regular user. This is just telling you how to do this. If you need a system with this, this is straightforward about setting up user accounts or groups and group snappings. Again, 9 questions. I'm going to add it on there. All right, we'll go over it. So troubleshooting. Why do you need to know this part? Because I'm assuming you want to get a job in IT or teach people about IT or do consulting in IT. We have what's called troubleshooting approaches or methodology. How do I go about solving a problem for a client or somebody? So you need to have troubleshooting skills. You need to be able to listen. Listening is a great troubleshooting skills. You also need to be able to do what's called active listening, meaning you should be able to restate what the client is asking you about. But here, troubleshooting module. How do I troubleshoot a problem? I get a call. There's a problem wrong with my system. I want to identify the problem. Otherwise, I'm solving the wrong problem. So I want to gather the information. Can I duplicate the problem? Listen to the client. Then, if you go to a lot of jobs, I've been to a site where I'm the only person there. It means you need to be able to find the answer. So number 2 is you really need to search the knowledge base. Google is your friend. Website from the manufacturer will help you, right? I'm switching back to my USB. I was hearing an echo. You guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, can hear you.
I just switched back. Okay, great. So you must establish the theory of what caused it. And of course, you got to test your theory. You establish how you're going to fix it as your plan of action. And you're going to implement the solution or you escalate. We tend to escalate in IT either because I don't know what to do or because it's beyond the scope of my authority. Like I'm a project manager. If you call me with a project problem, I can solve it. But if it's not within my scope, I'm not going to solve it. I will escalate or say, let me wait for change management board, right? So whenever you finish solving a problem, you verify it and then you document it for lessons learned and for future solutions. So here on this last issue here, talk about identifying the problem, understanding the problem, resolving it and documenting it. So this basic input and output system and I want to tell you about posts. When you turn on your computer is doing something in the background. Somebody needs to mute their system, please. I'm hearing an echo. Mute, or I'm going to mute everybody. I hear some children in the background, right? All right, so let's see here. All right, good. So you just muted yourself. Great. All right, so the basic problem, somebody calls me, they have an issue with their computer, right? But I was trying to explain to you that when you turn on your computer, it does a power on self-test. It checks to see the hardware. It checks to see the operating system. It does things in the background before it loads the OS. That's what a post does. It tests your hardware configuration, make sure your system is ready before it now loads the operating system for you to be able to work. And of course, the BIOS is where you can go and do other system settings. So somebody calls you and says, hey, I cannot log on, blah, blah, blah. Just telling you how you check. It says dark screen, or in those days, it's called what's called BSOD, blue screen of death. You hear those terminology, just know what that means, right? And if I'm hearing beeps, what does it mean? Some of this, you go more in details in the A+ class. What does a beep mean for me? What does a smell coming out of the motherboard mean? What do I need to do? Just know that there are certain things that you should be listening for or be aware of as an IT person or an ICT person, right? Your best bet is always manufacturer's documentation and OEM before you go to support website. Especially if you want to download their drivers, go to your original equipment manufacturer, right? If you're going to contact tech support, just know these things. You should know your purchase date for your equipment, device information, serial numbers, and other functionalities, right? All right. A lot of stuff we covered now. So we're at our 1 hour mark. And I like to be respectful of people's time and keep let's start with the questions. All right, so first question on the whole thing, any general questions? I think I've unmuted everybody.
Hello.
Yes, hold on a minute, let me take the raised hand. Go ahead, Desiree. So you can answer directly or just raise your hand and I acknowledge you. Desiree?
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Good morning, go ahead.
I would like to say good morning to everyone, depending on where we are now. So I don't have a particular question now. I just want to say I'm glad that I can do this class and say hello to everybody.
Okay, so I'm muting everybody now, but let me, if you want to talk, let me get, if you want to talk, raise your hands because I was hearing a big echo and then I can acknowledge you. Just raise your hand and the system will tell me that you raised your hand. So one person is waiting on the system. Let's see here. Okay, well, okay, let me unmute everybody now. All right, any particular question? Before I start, go ahead. Who's asking?
All right, this is Ugochukwu Mwabweze.
Ugochukwu, how are you?
I'm all right, from Florida. And I heard that you are a Florida original, so.
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
I went to undergrad and grad school in Florida. I love Florida.
Okay.
In fact, my wife is from Florida to transplant, so.
Oh.
Okay. I miss the weather.
Yeah, I love the weather too.
Yes.
Now, thank you for this introductory class, which I believe that's what it is. I'm hoping that we are going to get more into details about, like, say regular scenarios about, say, troubleshooting, what to do, how to get to it, and all that.
Well, yeah, you can ask me a specific question, but from tomorrow we're going to go more in depth. Tomorrow, it might not be too advanced, but we're going to talk more about apps and databases.
Okay.
And then the next day, we're really going to go more into the computer hardware, maybe about how you can troubleshoot hardware.
Okay.
And then day number 4, we're going to go into networking. So if you want to be a network engineer, that will give you some basic information about computer networks.
Okay.
And then we'll talk about different like IPv4, IPv6 addresses.
Okay.
And then security concept is our day number 4. On your syllabus, it says day number 7. That's just a typo. That should be day number 5. So we'll go through cybersecurity. So we're hoping that from today, general basic concept, we'll now build on the other 4 major areas tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. So let me explain how the CompTIA works. Anybody has a question before I talk more?
Okay, we have a.
Oh, hold on. Who has a question so I can unmute you? Hold on. Who has a question? Hang on. Let me unmute. Let me mute everybody for a minute. Hang on. Let's see. Just raise your hand so I can see. No, raise your hand in the tech portion so I can see who I'm looking for. If you raise your hand, the system tells me so I can unmute you because there's a big echo. Do you see on your bottom, it says how you can let me know to acknowledge you? No, just like Desiree raised his hand. If you want to raise your hand. All right, let me unmute everybody then. Okay. You understand? I was saying if you want to raise your hand on the computer and I can.
Right. He says it.
Okay, well, you didn't. Go ahead, answer the question. Everybody try and mute yourself, please. Who's asking a question?
Video.
Yeah, did you? Okay, hold on. Let me mute everybody and find you and unmute you. Hold on. Go ahead. Let me hear your question because I'm not seeing you on there. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much for the intro. Let me not take much of our time. I actually have 3 questions.
Go ahead.
The first is, when you kill the process,
yes,
that's in the task manager.
Yes. If you can get closer to your mic, meaning.
Okay, are you hearing me now, sir?
Yes, better. Go ahead. Yes.
Okay. My question was, when you kill the process in the task manager,
yes,
will that process return back to
I'm mute. Okay, hold on a minute. I'm trying to mute everybody else here gradually because people are not hearing me when I say mute yourself. All right. First question was if you kill the task process. Go ahead, did you?
Okay, when you kill the task process in the task manager,
yes,
will that process return back when you restart the system?
If the process will come back?
Yes.
Okay, you're on a techno device, right? Good. So I see. Hold on, okay. I'm trying to make sure I mute as many people as possible so that we can have. All right, you can hear me?
Oh yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. So, if you question, let me restate the question. If you kill a process, your question is whether it will come back on when you start your program, when you restart your computer.
That's the system. Yes, sir.
Well, it's not supposed to come back unless it's added on as part of your start menu. That's number one, or it's a malware that is hidden itself into your start menu, to your startup programs. You understand?
Okay.
Right? So there's only 3 situations that happen. It's a malware, it's part of your startup programs to run that you put in there, or maybe you didn't kill it properly. Set, so it's also part of a process that another application needs to run, like it's a dependent process. That makes sense? Like if I'm running Zoom and I have Zoom attached to something else, if I'm running, say, some cyber detection applications that need ActiveX or Java to run. So that would be the only situation where I see run, right? Either it's a malware, part of your startup, or it's a dependent process. What's the second question?
Okay, my second question is actually based on the experience I have.
Go ahead.
In my company. You talked about firmware, which you said it's actually embedded in the system.
Yeah.
From where I work, we actually have a problem. We have a system called a navigation. It's a navigational aid. And there are some issues we have, maybe if the firmware has crashed.
Okay.
What we do basically is for us to change an IC on the board.
Okay, so
because,
well, let's make sure, because in IT we have a lot of initials. IC as in the chip.
Yes, the chip. Yes.
Okay.
There's a chip on the board.
Okay,
so what we
to upgrade it, to prevent it from crashing, right?
Hello?
Yeah. What do you do to prevent it from crashing, right? To upgrade it?
No, we don't. If it has a problem, maybe it crashed. What we do is to change the chip and fix in another chip. Then the system comes up. So we don't have that opportunity to say we want to upgrade it or flash it, as you said. So I don't know if
you do. Actually, what it is you need to contact the manufacturer to get the recent updated firmware. Do you understand?
Okay.
So yeah, but it's not a normal thing that an average person does on a daily basis. But firmware update, the manufacturer should have current firmware. Of course, sometimes people buy second-hand devices, right? And they're not in touch with the manufacturer. The reason why, when you buy like an operating system, the reason why of course you activate it, but the reason why you register your operating system or your application is so when there's an update, the manufacturer will contact you. If you have a bootleg copy, of course you don't have that opportunity, right?
Okay.
So you shouldn't have to be changing your chip all the time. You should be able to flash it, which means upgrade it. All right?
Okay.
All right. I've unmuted everybody. Who has another question?
I also posted a in the chat.
Okay, let me see. Hold on. Let me get that. I'm going to get there. There are two questions on the chat. Okay, so Bree told you guys to raise your hand at the bottom. I've not seen your question. Let me see. Let me scroll back up there.
The question is the BIOS the firmware?
Very good question. BIOS is a firmware. So BIOS is the basic input output system on your computer. So we call it flashing your BIOS, which is to upgrade your BIOS. And usually you don't have to upgrade your BIOS unless there are more functionality that was released by the manufacturer that your previous version doesn't have. So it is an example of a firmware. Just like on SCADA systems, on routers, the software that's embedded is a firmware. All right, any other question? Do you have any more questions? I got 22 participants with no question. All right, so the first question on your 38 question was, True or false? All type of computers use CPU and system memory.
True, yes.
Right.
True.
So this is, all right. That's an easy one. All right. So let's ask a troubleshooting question based on Didio's information, right? So I'm going to go to the last set here and on a troubleshooting question.
True.
So this trouble question, you are advising a colleague about what we call best practice in troubleshooting. You've identified the following techniques to use to identify a problem. You gather your information, you duplicate the problem, you question the users, you identify the symptoms, and you approach multiple problems individually. The next question is, if you're using CompTIA's troubleshooting module, what other piece of advice should you give the person? Or better yet, let me relate it to a real life situation. John calls you up and says, I got into the office today, or let me use the virtual environment, since we are now with COVID-19. I go into the room in my house where I'm using for my work, my virtual work, and I log in and I cannot access my company's website using what's called a VPN. What is the first thing you need to do?
Contact the, hello?
Yes, I'm listening.
Contact the manufacturer.
Okay, why would you need to contact the manufacturer?
Because, I mean, just said he couldn't locate, I forgot what you just said.
He couldn't locate, he couldn't log into his company's. He couldn't log into his company using the VPN.
No need. I'm trying to think.
The first thing you tell the person to do is for the person to check the
To check the what?
connected cable, Ethernet cable. Maybe the person is connected. Don't get
The first thing to do is to check to be sure that the number caps are not locked, are functioning properly, or that the cap locks are not, active.
Okay, so all of you are basically have posted the actual question on the chat box, right? Because it's kind of the similar one on your exam. You are all on the right track, but you're really asking, you want to find out basically if anything has changed. Because if yesterday or the day before, the last time he was there, he could get into the company's system, right? Network using VPN. You're thinking in your mind, has something changed, right? Because why did he get in the day before and couldn't get in today? So maybe, yeah, caps lock could be on, but the idea is here, so think. To try, and sometimes it is the simplest stuff. Another thing would be your client calls you up and say, hey, I just came in, I turned on my computer. I want to do school work with my son, and my computer is not coming on, right? You're looking for, maybe something has changed. They did the schoolwork yesterday, but you always want to look for the simplest common sense solution. Is the keyboard connected or is the power on? Some of these things sound stupid, but a lot of clients' problems are simple. So you always use the simple solution first. All right? All right, any other question? I'm going to hang up and put a video on there. Any questions from the class or the 38 questions I posted? All right, so tomorrow we're going to post, I paused my screen sharing, obviously. Tomorrow I'm going to post, in about now I'm going to post 80 or so questions that I need you to answer. So the 38 questions that I posted, please type your answers. You can type it on Canvas or you can type it on the Word document. What I did to help you, I posted it in the announcement and then I posted it in the file section of Canvas. Did anybody not see the questions? Because the best way to learn is to really think through the question besides the practical aspect, right? With me not just lecturing. So this is going to be standard format. We go over the material for an hour and we do labs and stuff. So now I'm also going to give you, I try and give you a simple lab. If you look on the last page of my, let's go to the slide in a minute here. On the last page, you will see that I said we have several labs, right? I'm going to post some labs that I just want you to do on your own. They're not, I will call them graded labs, but it's for you to just do and then get back with me, right? Right?
Yeah.
All right, guys. So it was nice having everybody in the class, and hopefully you learned something, and we'll do more tomorrow. Please log on time, so I will not keep interrupting and going back and forth.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you very much.